Hello and welcome to Mind Your Mind podcast. Here in Mind Your Mind podcast, we talk about life, mind, universe, everything, and absolutely nothing at all. I don't know how we are still doing it after 5 years of talking about nothing, but tell me, it's how crazy it is and how deep we can get talking about nothing, right? And I think
Right.
that's what people miss the most, talking about basic things. We always talk about basic things here, but that's where the secret is to mental and spiritual well-being. And today, actually, is one of those topics we're going to talk about. Hi, Henna, by the way. You look amazing as always.
Hello. Hi, everyone. And here we
Glasses
are.
on.
We are here to talk about nothing, which is so important.
So we do talk a lot about, how to manage emotions, how to manage the mind for 5 years, actually, how we can understand the meaning behind the emotions that we are having right now, whether it's fear, anxiety, or the body, the senses of stress, what to do in those scenarios. What is our body trying to tell us? What is our mind trying to tell us by bringing certain emotions? Is it just basic triggers? Is there something behind that? This self-awareness is something we talk a lot. And today, actually, we're going to talk about the mental and spiritual evolution, which is basically taking all those points and putting a timeline through your mind. How do these evolve over time? Because we all know that practicing self-awareness,
Right.
practicing the mental work or the spiritual work on a day really helps us, or a month over helps us. But we don't stay the same. We always evolve because we are going through different challenges every time. And once we figure out some repetitive patterns, though, we start another one. So we change, we age, we are in different places, we are dealing with different people, and we constantly do these things. But we're going to talk about like how do we evolve in dealing with those mental and spiritual things.
Right. Right. It's such an important topic because it's the most overlooked. You know, we are going to talk about something that quietly plays a role in shaping every part of who we are. Because our mind, our soul, our emotions, and of course our spirit, they are what forms us, and there's nothing else beyond that. So I would rather say, we are going to layer by layer reveal the layers of becoming, if I can say that. I'm looking forward to today's conversation because uh, we are sitting here with a question that might not have clear answers, but we are still going to, you know peel out layer by layer like an onion. And it might lead to a lot of mess, it might lead to some tears, but it's going to be fun.
I like how you state as becoming. It just sparked something in me. I think we are all constantly becoming ourselves. And actually, in my book, I define the lean mind. The book is called Lean Mind, but I always say the lean mind is an asymptote. It's this line that we will never reach, but we are just getting there, closer and closer. But we will never become ourselves, our true selves. But we are constantly reaching there. And actually, every single trouble we're facing, every single challenge that we are facing, kind of
Mhm.
helps us get there in levels. Do you know what I mean? Like every single challenge, you level up because you unlocked one more thing about your body or mind to
So
overcome.
true. So true. So true. And mostly I would like to, talk about spiritual growth first, because that is, I would say, that is something that is so full of myths and so much full of misconceptions. Because most of the time the word spiritual itself is associated to rituals and practices, religious practices, and God. But it is actually about just us, our spirit, our soul. And God resides, if at all I call it a God, that power resides in us. So it's all about our evolution. We can achieve that higher spiritual state by just working on ourselves. There's nothing else that needs to be chased on the outside. So I want to throw some light on that. And Ozan, I would love if you can throw some light on that. What exactly is spiritual growth to you?
I think the spirit is very much misunderstood. I think you're right on that point. Uh, the Christians see it as something that's pagan. Pagans see it as something like Christian or any other religion. It's really messed up definition that we give to spirituality. For me, how I see spirituality is that we have our bodies and we have our minds, and then we have our spirit. That's how we observe our minds, how we detach from our minds, and how we connect to the universe at a deeper level than the mental sides. Mental sides, I mean, we have ego, we have intelligence, logic, but we are connected to the universe on a deeper level. And this is the level which I'm talking about, where we feel like, that gut feelings that you're supposed to do something, you're
Mhm.
supposed to go somewhere. Those kind of
Mhm.
feelings that you cannot logically explain, and they are not coming out of a trigger from a past trauma or whatsoever. It just cannot be explained. And I think those little glimpses are what's connecting us to the universe. And it's constantly coming up. And that's what I mean with spirit. Spirit is us going through the human
Mhm.
experience, using the mind and the body as a tool, as a hardware and software, but there is a user behind those things, and that's the spirit. And that's how we connect
Mhm.
to everybody all around us. Obviously, the spirit is the one here that has deep connection with the people and that has a deep connection with the universe. It also is the one with a purpose, gives the mission to the mind and the body. So we are just not like every other molecule in the universe. We are similar molecules, but there is some deeper consciousness behind that controls those things. Similar to how
Yes.
consciousness of a cell tells it what to do. It's encoded in the DNA. Each cell does different things. Cell in the tissue of a
Mhm.
fat versus muscle in different organs, they do different things. Same cells, made of same molecules, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, same things. What's controlling them, what's giving
Yes.
the purpose is spirit for me. What do you think?
Yes, I know. I would like to add here that, whatever you just said, it might sound a little abstract or meta, but it is definitely not that. It is so basic and so general without the big words. It is just your, power to let go, power to surrender. It sounds ironical. I know it shouldn't be power, it should be your ability to surrender. It's about the gradual softening of your ego. When you move ahead from proving to simply being, when you start moving ahead from knowing to actually observing or wondering, when you open yourself up to the universe, to everything around you, like a child, I think that is when you would be spiritually evolved. you know there's a sacred humility that arrives when you stop trying to figure it out all and start trusting that life itself is a teacher. So it's just your presence, nothing, no pressure, just simple pure presence, no performance.
No performance. I like that one. I agree in a way, like because when you think of spiritual growth, what do we mean as a growth? I completely agree with that one. You see how grown you are spiritually by seeing how
Hmm.
surrendered you are, how much you can enjoy the simple things, how wise you are. And how I define wisdom is that, many people go through their lives solving problems, chasing materials, titles, whatsoever. And wisdom is the one that maybe after getting those things, or maybe during that you realize those are not the things that give you fulfillment. The fulfillment is given by simple acts such as surrendering or watching the sunrise or just sitting and appreciating that you are breathing, these kind of things. I think those are the moments which you realize you're more connected and there is more to life than there is only materials. And that's how I view growth, that you can let go of many earthly matters and you can actually
Right.
appreciate the present moment. You can appreciate your body and the mind and people around you and just the sunrise and just surrender and let go and understand that you can only control some chunk of what we are living in and the rest is okay. Those are what is leading you to reach your spiritual goal.
Yes, and it love how it just smoothly blends into your mental growth as well, because once you start building your own compass and following your own inner compass, there are so many things you realize that you have been nurturing, you have been keeping inside you, some beliefs, some biases, and a lot of self concepts which are just handed, which have just been handed to you from generations to generations. And most of that stuff is just borrowed. It's just borrowed wisdom. There's no inner wisdom there. You've just inherited it from your culture, your parents, your religions, your past trauma, guide that no longer holds valid. It is just redundant now, and no one really tells you that we are allowed to change it, we are allowed to question it, or we are allowed to redraw it. So I think mental evolution begins when we stop asking, what should I think? And rather start asking, what feels true to me now? And that can sometimes be terrifying, because to question your beliefs is to risk losing the identity you have built on them for so many years. But at the same time, uh, if it's terrifying, it's also very liberating. You realize that thoughts are just visitors, and you don't owe every thought a rent. Yeah, they are not landlords. They are just, they'll keep coming and going. And I think that's where curiosity as well comes in, because with our spiritual evolution and mental evolution, we get curious. We get curious instead of defensive. And that's when your mind actually begins to stretch.
I completely agree with you on that one. I in order to have actually spiritual growth, like you need to let go of the mind, which is terrifying, as you say, and that's super difficult to do because the mind is, I do see it like an operating system for a computer. It works in ones and zeros, and
Right.
you cannot turn it off. You cannot stop the thoughts very easily. This is why actually all of my concept is lean mind. Lean
Mhm.
basically is cleaning up the mind. It's reducing it in size and whatsoever. It's not building on it. No, because we have to eventually let it go. And while we are having constantly trauma responses, constantly thoughts, core beliefs, whatsoever, that we cannot do that because we are, as human beings, we are unable to just turn off the mind. Doesn't work like that. We can try it like temporarily through meditations, through intense activities such as sports or whatsoever. We can in some level, but that will not lead to high level of like sustainable spiritual growth. That is why it's very important to actually deal with what we have in our mind. That's why it's so correlated. Without the mental growth, without working on yourself, figuring out your core beliefs, working on your traumas, figuring out the patterns that the mind throws you, without dealing with those, you will not be able to let it go and then focus on the spiritual growth. Think of the Maslow's pyramid, the level of needs are different. The mind is constantly focusing on first the survival, obviously, and the basic needs. But it cannot judge how basic needs are sometimes. Once we have the survival, thankfully we are in a situation where we are not in a food chain. We can just relax in our houses and so on like that. But then the mind is unable to figure out the levels. Therefore, it's giving the same meaning to what's happening at work or what's happening with the family or friends. If they say
Mm.
something bad whatsoever, then we take it as an attack to our survival because we are coded that way. So
Totally
unless we
agree.
deal with that, we cannot let it go.
Yes, and I agree with you, Azan. And also, you know, I think we just left it there, but it's also very important to know that how this evolution can be terrifying. We all know that there is the victory lies ahead of fear, but we never muster that courage to really take that step because of the terror it might cause or the grief it might cause. Why that grief comes, maybe we can throw some light on that. Mental evolution means letting go of your long held ideas or beliefs, completely changing your belief system. Maybe not changing, but just altering, because you might not be thinking all wrong before, but now when you realize what you are, you have different set of ideas of your own, which are original, which are unique. And it's not I mean, it's impossible for everyone to understand that. But what is most important is that you get it, you understand it. It's your truth. Same way for spiritual growth. What spiritual growth means losing the comfort of certainty. The more we grow, the less we fit into the boxes that once defined us. And people around you might not understand the shifts. They will say that you have changed, like it's a problem. And but what exactly you have done is, all you have done is you have become more you. And that's the cost of awakening. You start choosing truth over your tribe. You start choosing depth over pleasing others or being accepted by others. And eventually you choose peace over performance.
Exactly, and that's what makes it hard. Because what we learn, actually, you mentioned before, and you said it really nicely that we need to figure out what our ideas are, what our thoughts are, in order to go to that direction. As we grow up, like we are full of ideas and thoughts and beliefs that are not ours. It's coming from the culture, it's coming from family, friends, districts we were raised in, what we learned in school and everything. And most of it is not ours. We just learn it to fit into some boxes. But in order to grow and become yourself, you need to get out of that because everyone is unique. Everyone has something magical within that. That's how I see it. Spiritual growth is the universe is trying to lead you to become yourself, the true version of yourself that will let the universe go forward. In order to do that, we need to acknowledge that everyone is completely different and unique, and they have different skills, they speak differently, they do different acts. You will never be able to understand if they are themselves. But that's the beauty of it. That's how we evolve as a human being. Now, in order to evolve personally, you need to get out of the box. In order to get out of that box, first you need to understand what thoughts, what beliefs you learned or were forced into you, that is injected all these ideas in our heads. Even the media, if you listen to TV on a specific channel for a couple of months, you will have a lot of thoughts which is not yours. We are just
Yes.
bound to be like that.
And
You
isn't
know,
that what's happening? We are consuming content from everywhere and we are borrowing so many things which are not original at all. And under that noise, I would say, uh, your your true voice is lost. You don't remember who you are anymore, because your everything is borrowed. Every thought is borrowed. Every word is borrowed.
exactly. Realize what is borrowed and what is not borrowed, what is your idea. I think that's the biggest step. And that's the hardest step because we usually don't know it. It needs a lot of awareness. All these beliefs inside us, but most of us has about who we are as a person. Who am I? If you ask me, 10 years ago, who am I would say I'm a worthless person. I'm not worth anything. I can't do this. I should just sit at home. I'm fat. I should just not be. But more and more you realize those things. And then you need to figure out, hold on, whose voice is that?
Yeah.
It's not my voice.
Yes, and we keep going behind that voice or that noise, I would say, because that's the most I would say most accepted voice. We we follow influencers because they seem to be doing something right, and we always want to be right. We are so scared of being wrong. We are so scared of figuring out what exactly works for us, because someone else has figured it out somewhere, so we just follow that. And that's exactly what your evolution doesn't look like. When you are mentally evolved, it feels like you can loosen your grip. You don't need to be right. You want to understand. And spiritual evolution feels like coming home to yourself, coming home to a part of you that was always there but was buried under the noises. It's like remembering. It's like, you suddenly got your memory back.
I like that you put it as coming home, because that is coming home. If you like think of a dimension that is not defined by time, because time is also a mindly matter. The mind is creating the concept of time as present future. But coming home sounds beyond time. That
Yes.
there is this spirit who you are, and this human being with true mind is conserved, like it's experiencing time. It's trying to go there. It's trying to go to that direction. But that's already who you are. You just need to let your spirit figure out a way back home.
And it makes us so humble, it when you are so spiritually and mentally evolved. I think the best outcome of that is humility. Sometimes it's as simple as sitting under the sky and feeling so small and realizing that you are really, really small, but you are not insignificant. You are safe under that sky. Your voice matters, but you are not the whole melody. You are just a note in the song, not the whole melody.
You reminded me of a quote from Rumi, actually. I don't know if you know this one. You are not a drop in an ocean. You are the
Yes,
entire ocean in a drop.
that's so wonderful.
I love Rumi, and I love how he put like greatest words ever said. And that's what I mean with like who you are meant to be. Your spirit is the connection to the universe. You're who you are supposed to be. Do we just allow that? Do we just allow the universe to express itself through us? Because that's who we are. We are the universe, right? We are part of it. And it's basically scientific as well. Like if you check the quantum mechanics, of course, we don't know so much about it. But what we know is that we have theories. Think of the string theory. Yes, universe is just void with only strings of energy, just vibrating at a different frequency. If you think about it, that's what the quarks are made of. So we are nothing else but just energy in motion. And if you think about that, there's nothing separating us from everything else in the universe, apart from our weird connection to this body and the mind, which is like limiting our perception. I'm going a little bit deep, so I will not go to that direction. But what I mean is that's our true mission,
Yes.
to be ourselves. And that is different from everyone and everything what we have been taught, because we are thought to be living low in a society and not be ourselves, but be just a pawn. But we are more than a pawn. But in order to do that, we need to figure out, okay, that's not who I am, but then who am I?
Yes, that's beautiful actually, to realize that this is the basis of everything, and this is this is the primary reason why we are on this planet, and we are just, caught up with different things that don't serve us well. The very realization is the first step, but the real question is, where do we start? If we want to grow like this, if we want to mentally and spiritually evolve, I would say start by asking better questions, not what should I do, but what am I being invited to learn? What is there for me in it? What is the meaning behind all this? Maybe, questioning the whys behind everything. That can be your starting point. What else can you think of which can really help us to evolve better emotionally and mentally and spiritually?
I agree that asking better questions is the first thing. It's a progress and it's a lifelong process. You will be getting there until you die. There is no evolution like in a second. Evolution takes the entire lifetime. We need to understand that. And we need to understand to focus on both mental and then spiritual. Mental, because we need to be aware of the thoughts and the core beliefs that's coming to our minds. And we need to focus and understand which are ours and which are not ours, or which word is not ours. Let them go. Which are ours, understand it and live by it. There's no problem with that. More and more you focus on the mental growth, better and better it will be for you to manage your mind. There will be less trauma responses. There will be less weird emotions that you don't understand. Then it will be easier to let go of that and focus more about your spiritual growth and understand who you are and understand what you're feeling. And it's very important here to realize the gut feelings that is coming to you constantly, the deep feelings that you cannot explain anyhow else. You know that they are not related to anything. They have a deeper purpose. And I think that's how we can follow the spiritual path, that we focus a little bit more about what is universe sending us. Sometimes it's sending feelings. Sometimes the universe, if we are not following the feelings, they are sending challenges that we
Yes.
cannot explain. But those challenges actually lead us somewhere. If you think about it, you talked about grief. If I wasn't grieving, I would have never wrote my book. I wrote it right after the grieving because that was the point which I understood what's important and what's not. This year has been the craziest year of my life. So many parts of my life just was destroyed. But I feel like I had the most growth out of that because those were the things I did not focus on. Those were the emotions I did not want to deal with. Then the universe just threw on me that I had to. So it's a constant work between you and the universe. If you don't follow yourself and figure out what feelings are coming to you, then the universe will throw something that will force you to do it. But it's important to, as you said, ask better questions, understand yourself, and, and be aware. Notice everything that's coming, all the thoughts, all the emotions, and all these unexplainable feelings.
So true and so beautifully explained, Ozan. I think the basis of all this is, when you said grief was a catalyst, it's because grief lets you slow down. It gives a pause in your life. Even if it's a negative pause, it still is a pause. It kind of questions, okay, hold on. What am I doing wrong? Where did this all topple up? How is it all, coming to all this? So when you start asking these questions, it's because you are now spending some time with yourself and wondering, being curious about your own self, and then ultimately surrendering to the universe. You're loosening your grip, and at the same time, you are internally strong. You are keeping a hold on yourself, but you are not trying to control the things around you. And I think that is the power of slowing down and grieving. So, that is one thing, of course, that leads to your evolution. Another things that you can do when you are not really in that sad mode, but you are in a positive and happy state of mind, and you're listening to this and you're wondering, like, what else can I do? I cannot invite grief into my life to work on myself, but what can I do right now? Maybe that's why there are books. There are books that stretch you, that make you think. So read that. Read things that stretch you, that make you ask better questions. And then surround yourself with people who make you feel safe to doubt and dream. Not everyone around you is someone who you can dare to doubt yourself with. There are people who might just sugarcoat the reality for you. Identify them. And you will be able to identify them, of course, once you slow down and take a closer look. So it's very important to have people in your life who make you feel okay, even if you're doubting yourself. They just make it everything so normal that it's okay to doubt things. It is okay to be lost for a while, but you are safe. You're fine. And you can still dream. And you can still fulfill all your wishes. You can still chase your dream because it's just a part of life. It's not your whole life. So,
I completely agree with how you said your surroundings and people around you as well. I think that that's one point now that you mentioned is like it's crucial because so many of the things we hesitate about ourselves and hesitate doing, even if it's like coming spiritually to us, is because we always are a little bit afraid of judgment, especially the people closest to us,
yes.
because they see me like this, so I am like this, I am not like this. So this actually distorts our own view of ourselves, and that's very dangerous. It's important to notice if people are giving you unconditional love, if they will support you, whoever you are, or not. And as you mentioned, if you notice this, it's important to expose more of yourself to the people who actually will not care who you become, but will still give you love and support.
So beautiful and so true. This episode itself, I think, is such a great reflecting episode, and I'm going to listen to it again and again, I'm sure.
I think so, and it's all connected. As we say, always, everything is connecting to each other. How we connected wandering, how we connected surrendering, how we connected the present moment, and everything that we have
Yes.
talked about before, the mind management. It all connects to this. So spiritual growth, mental growth is a whole process that includes each one of them. You cannot only focus on one area and then
Right.
expect to evolve. Evolving has a lot of different aspects of it. But we just need to notice these things and realize what do we need right now? Do we need to surrender? Do we need to manage our emotions whatsoever? That's how we grow.
Honestly, I can go on this, but I think we'll just we'll have to do another episode on this one to really to really flesh it out more, because uh, we did discuss what it means and how it can be achieved superficially. Going deeper in it, in every aspect of your life, how this plays a role, I think we definitely need another episode for it for becoming.
For becoming, I like the becoming one. So that will be the sequel, becoming, unbecoming, and then becoming.
I love that.
All right, that was a lovely discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Azan. Always great talking to you.
Yes, and we will see you in the next episode.
Yes, stay tuned.
See you later.